Bricks and Minifigs is your one-stop shop for all things LEGO. Hit the link below to find a store near you.
I'm David Sines. This is my build titled Shortcut to Mushrooms, which is from the Lord of the Rings, in the sequence where the Hobbits are fleeing from the Nazgûl, not really knowing that they're being chased at this point. I'm a big fan of the Lord of the Rings, so it was something I really wanted to capture, that kind of sense of tension from the movie. So when I was doing it, it really started with the Hobbits, trying to figure out something that was organic in shape, that I could add some expression to their faces, because I didn't want to do it minifig scale. I wanted to size it up. And then from there, it was just a matter of sculpting around them, and then adding the various details here and there. As far as like everything goes, I think the horse would probably be the thing that took the longest, because I really wanted to get something that was, again, really organic, and trying to get some of those curves was a bit of a challenge, and I had to come up with some interesting techniques to do that. But overall, I like him quite a bit. Now I just got to figure out where to put him. So,
what is the internal core of the horse there that kind of is it pretty fragile, or how's that work?
So like the sections of the horse, like the head, the torso, and then the rear are fairly solid. Where it becomes a little tricky is attaching those at angles that aren't really like normally your right angles that you would get from Lego. So I had to do a few different techniques with like hinge pieces and like some ball and socket joints to get that. So yeah, it was a bit tricky. And actually, when I was bringing him over, he fell apart like on the drive. So I was like, okay, got to do surgery when we get there. So, but yeah.
And how about the other characters here in the build? How did those kind of come together for you?
So the Hobbits were fairly simple. Once I figured out how to do the heads, it was just a simple matter of like, if I can even talk today, just building the bodies in a way that was proportionate to them, so it didn't look like super big or super small. But yeah, they weren't too challenging. The Nazgul was primarily his hood is what got me, because I didn't want to have like a straight, flat, face. I wanted to actually have something kind of, shading his face from view. So trying to get something that provided that bit of an angle was a bit tough, and also working within the constraints of the pieces I had, because I didn't have a lot of black by the time I was done with the horse. So yeah, and he was really like, as far as putting him together, there was a few hinge pieces and some ball and socket joints, but a lot of it was just trying to arrange the curved slope plates in a way that it looked like it was actually fabric draped over him, and trying to get that Nazgul look to him.
The hands are really well done. What elements did you use there?
Here, I'll pop the arm off so you can see. 1 second. So it's really just an arrangement of some ball and socket joints, some of these little 1x1 studs with the arm coming off of it, the robot arms, and then the claw pieces interlinked to that. And then just very fragilely connecting them to it. So, but yeah, I was pretty pleased with it, especially that I was able to get more of that wedge shape from the hand instead of like a rectangle piece. So
yeah, and it seems to just pop on and off pretty easily.
Yeah, that's the one part on this guy that pops on and off easily. Everything else, it's like fragilely trying to connect to him. There we go. And there, I think we just lost a finger on the other hand, but it's all good.
And then the landscaping itself is obviously fantastic here. So start with kind of the tree. How did that come together for you?
Well, the tree took a little bit. It actually was like 3 variations trying to figure out the right size. And eventually it just came down to like a technique I've used before, where you just like arrange like some of the plates that have the overhang with the studs on the side, and then hinge pieces, and then you can get kind of a cylinder out of it. And then it was just layer some plates onto that in varying like colors, so you could get the underbark and then the overbark and everything like that. And then trying to arrange the roots outside from that. The tree is actually not even connected to the base, aside from like a couple of these smaller roots. It's just kind of resting there. Okay. But yeah, it was a bit of a challenge trying to figure out this stuff. I kind of had to start with these like larger sections and then build arms off of that, and then detail around that. The canopy pieces were actually the easiest thing about it. It's just like the leaf pieces with some stems built into that and the leaves on top of that, and it's just connected using a small like rod piece. But
So to get the different shapes of the roots down here, what pieces did you use?
it's basically a combination of some plates that have the overhang on it, and then some ball and socket joints that I could like position varying, angles, and then layered a ton of slopes and plates and tiles onto it so it looked like it had a bit of dimension to it. Because I really wanted to try to emulate that, rough bark texture without having it just be all like tiles or all, plates. So I just tried to mix those in with some that were curved and some that were at an angle, and I think it worked out pretty well. I'm pleased with it. So
I love the way you stretch the roots out over the hobbits here as well. So I see you use some of the like flex tube type pieces for more detailing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that, and then again some of the hinge pieces so I could get like some of the smaller roots branching off of that. And that it's again just the same technique that I used here, just longer plates in between to stretch them out. And then you can't quite see this one, but like on this guy here, I've just got some wedge pieces that are like holding this root in place because otherwise it would swing out front. So just so that way I could get the more crooked angle to it.
And then what was your approach with the back section there?
It's really just circular tiles, like in varying colors and sizes, just intermixed in a really random assortment. And then on top of that, I've got some larger angled plates so I could build up some dimension to the terrain, and then add some yellow and orange leaves so it looked like you have some of them that have fallen and started to dry out on the ground, as opposed to the ones that are still in the tree. So I really wanted to try to capture that scene where, it's an old path, but it's one that's not really well maintained. You have clutter on it and everything like that. So that was really the goal.
What was set up like then when you got this to show? Because you said the tree just kind of sits there. So how did that work?
Honestly, all I had to do was take the Nazgul and the horse off. Everything else is fairly solid on its own. So it was just taking those guys off, putting them into a box, and then hoisting the rest of it in. Very carefully, though. But
this is a really unique scale with the Hobbit characters there. Is that a scale that you've built in before, or is this the first time you've tried to kind of tackle something at that size?
I've never built in this scale before. I've done Lord of the Rings like brick heads before, but I didn't want to reuse those for the convention, so I figured I'd start new with something. And the scale of the Hobbits really determined everything else. So once I figured them out, it was like, okay, how much bigger do I have to make the horse? How much bigger do I have to make the Nazgul and the tree? So yeah, it was definitely a challenge trying to figure out those proportions. But I think it turned out well in the end. So
seems like you get a lot more posability, and then, like you said earlier, the expressions on the face are great as well.
Yeah. The posability was definitely something I was going for because I wanted to have, like, differing postures for the hobbits, given that, what's going on. And also with, like, Sam and Pippin holding, like, vegetables and stuff, I really wanted them to be able to have, like, some movement to them. So they've actually got, like, a ball and socket. Well, not ball and socket. It's, like the rod piece that has the T angle on it, and then like a 1x1 rounded plate with a hole in it so I can like move their arm around. It's a little fragile, but it accomplished the look in the end, I think.
Well, excellent work here. I think that the build is very unique, again, with the scale and just the scene that you've captured here. So thank you so much for all your effort you put into this. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the time. It was a lot of fun. I've now got to figure out where I'm going to put it. I've had a few people that have told me I'm not allowed to break it up, and I'm not so sure I want to either, because big Lord of the Rings fan, and yeah, might do more in this scale, but yeah, it's definitely going to be a conversation piece at home. So
thank you.
Oh, thank you guys.